Given a string, find the longest substring with all unique characters. So if we had like HELOWORLD, then the longest substring would be world, like this, with all distinct characters. So to do this, we will keep everything as we come across it in a dictionary. So we'll have a map and just kind of have a starter to keep track of the start of our substring. And we'll just kind of walk through and add things to the map. And as we get duplicates, then we'll change our starting point and clear out the map and start again. So in order to do this, we have a map. We're going to keep track of our a sub-maximum number and a maximum number. And then, of course, we need to keep track of our start. All right, so, and we can kind of have like an iterator as well. So that'll start at 0, start is at 0, everything kind of starts at 0. And so first we look at this H, we see it's not in the map, so we add the H, and we're going to put, what I want to do is keep track of the letter that actually comes after that letter, so that when I come across a duplicate, I can actually just reset start to the next letter. So H will be 1, and then we'll increase I, our iterator. Now we're here. S is still 0. We now have 1. And as our submax and our max as well. And then now we go in and we look at E. E is not in our map, so we add it and we're going to put its position. And actually, I'm going to number these so it's easier just to keep track. All right, so then we look at E. E got added. So now submax is 2 and max is now 2. And we will increase I. I is now 2. And it's looking at an L. There's no L in our map. And then we have L at position 3. And we now have 3 as a submax and a new max of 3. So I++, I is now looking at 3. That's an L. We do have L in the map. So first thing we want to do is move start equal to the location that we are storing in the map. So that would be 3. So we move S to position 3. And then we want to increase, or we want to clear our map. And it's going to add what is at the start. And actually, eventually, we're going to want to add more letters if there are some between the start and the iterator. In this example, we have 2 L's next to each other, so you just don't see it. But we'll have L, and that's at position 3. So, and actually, it's 4 because it's I + 1. So then our submax is now a 1. Max is still 3. I++. I is now 4. And so that's looking at an O. There's no O in our map, so O, and that's a 5. So submax becomes 2. Oh, and our start had changed to 3. And then I++, so 5. And that's a W. It's not in our map, so we add it, and it's 6. And then submax becomes 3. Max is still 3. I++. Now we're in an O. And O is in our list, so we want to do a couple things. First, we want to move start to our W here at position 5, because O is at 5. So start is going to be moved to position 5, to index 5. Then what we need to do is from our starting position, we need to loop through and add or we need to clear this, and then we need to loop through starting at our starting position until we get to our iterator, so that we don't miss any of the letters in between. So we're adding our W, and that was at 6. And then we also add our O, and that's 7. Now, I++, so now I is 7. And that's an R, and that does not exist, so we add it, and that's at position 8. And then submax now becomes, well, submax was always 3, was already 3, so it's 3 again. And then max stays at 3. All right, so I++, I is now 8. So here, I is 8, and that's an L. There's no L, so we add L, and that's at position 9. And then submax becomes 4. And max is now 4. We have a new max. All right, so I++, so I is now 9. Oh, and I forgot to change this to a 5. Okay, and then I is 9, so I is now here at the end. And D is not in our map, so we add D, and it's a 10. Okay, and then submax becomes 5, and then max is also now 5. And I++, I is now 10, and 10 is greater than the size of our string. So we're finished with that, and it looks like we'll be returning 5 as our longest substring with all unique characters. So let's go ahead and code this. I'm going to go ahead and clear the board. Okay, and make plenty of room for our code. Okay, so what we want to do is we'll start off with public. It's going to return an int. It just wants to return the length. It doesn't have to return the characters themselves. And so we're going to find, we can just call it find longest. And it takes in a string. Okay, and first off, we can say, we can do a quick check. If string equals, if it's like null or something, then return, we can just like return -1. We could throw an exception. We'll do something. And then, okay, else if string equals, I should say string dot length. Well, here it would be string would equal nothing. Here we can do string dot length equals 1. And so with that, we would return a length of 1. And actually, I am going to just change this. The string length is 0, return -1, otherwise return 1. Otherwise, we'll get into our algorithm. And first off, we definitely want to, we said we have a starting number we need to keep track of. We have our map that we need to create. And that's going to be a char and an int. This map, and that's going to equal a new dictionary. Okay, and then we also need to have our sublength that we said we needed to keep track of. And that will equal 0 to start, and we also have our max length. And that will equal 0 to start. And so we can just loop through. The idea is that we will loop through this string one time. The only thing is that we'll have a little tiny loop anytime we have to backtrack and get new letters that we'd already seen after we get a duplicate, but that would hopefully not, worst case, it would loop through the entire string, but I think it would, or like almost the whole string, but hopefully it won't be too bad. So for int I, and that can start at 0, I is less than the string length, I plus plus. Okay, and so we're going to get into it, and if the map already has the letter in it, if the map contains the key, string it I, then we will, these are actually round. Okay, so if it contains the key, then what we said is we need to set our start, and that's going to equal to the map at this letter that we're currently at, and it's going to put the correct number for the start. Then we said we needed to clear the map. And then we just need to add anything that could be missing. Well, first we can add our start, because we might not even want to go into the while loop at all if we only have one letter, like in the case of our double L's. So start plus 1. Okay, so there we're adding the letter that's at our start position. And then otherwise, we're going to need to have like a counter and walk through any extra letters that we may need to. So count can start at, count would start at our start plus 1. So the next variable, or the next character in the string. And then we can go while count is less than or equal to I, then we want to just keep adding letters. So while that, we can map dot add. We can add our string at count, comma, count plus 1. And then we need to increase count. That should grab all those letters up until and through I. So once we have I added in our while loop, it will be breaking out. And then if we didn't have to do any of this, if it wasn't in the key at all, then we were just going to add it to the map. Okay, and then we need to check and see if we need to calculate our sub length. And that's going to equal I plus 1 minus start. Okay, and then if our sub length is greater than max length, then we know we have a new max. So then max length equals sub length. Okay, and then once we are done with that, we would get out of our else and out of our function. Nope, we don't want to get out of the function yet. First, we're going to return max length. And then we're going to get out of our function. Okay, so let's walk through this with our hello world example. We'll go ahead and write it bigger up here. I'm going to spread it out so it's a little easier to read. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so we go in and we've got to keep track of our map. And then we're going to also keep track of S, I, max, we'll do sub max or sub length. Max length. Okay. So first things first, if string length is equal to 0, which it's not, else if string length is 1, it's not. Otherwise we go in. Start is 0. We've got our dictionary created, and then sub length is 0, max length is 0, and I is 0. Okay, so we hop in and our string length is 10, so we know that's kind of what we're looking at in our for loop. Okay, so if map contains key, and first we're at this string at 0, which is the H, and it does not, so we add the H and I plus 1, so 1. Okay, and then sublength equals I plus 1 minus start, so I plus 1 is 1 minus the start is 0, so sublength is 1, and max length is 1 because 1 is greater than 0. Then I plus plus, so we get 1. And we're like missing a curly brace there. Okay. So I plus plus, 1 is less than 10, so we come in if the map contains the string, the key at string of I, which is 1, and E, it does not, so we add the E, and we add a 2 there. Then sublength equals I plus 1, which is 2, minus the start, so sublength is 2, max length is 2. Okay, go around, I plus plus. Okay, 2 is less than 10, so we come in if the map contains the key of L, which it does not, so we add the L, it's an I plus 1. And then we get sublength becomes 3. Max length is now 3 because 3 is greater than 2. And then I plus plus. So I is now 3. And make this a little smaller. I is now 3. 3 is less than 10. So we keep going. And then if map contains key string at I, which is L, which it does, then we go into our if statement, start equals map at string I. So we go to our map at L. So start becomes 3. Okay, map.clear. So we're clearing our map. Add string at start. So string at 3, which is L. And then start plus 1. Start is 3, so we add 4. Then we go and count equals start plus 1. So count equals 4. And if 4, while 4 is less than I, which it's not, I is 3. So we skip that while loop. We come in, and this was actually an else because we don't want to do that every time. And then sublength is I plus 1 minus start. So I was 3. So 4 minus 3. So sublength is now 1. Max stays 3. Okay, I plus plus, I is now 4. And so 4 is an O. The map does not contain the key O. So we add the O and it gets a 5. Okay, and then sublength becomes 2. 2 is not greater than 3, so max stays 3. I plus plus. I is now 5. 5 is less than 10. So we go in here. If map contains the key string at I, which is a W, and it does not. So we go in and we add the W and a 6. Then sublength is I plus 1 minus start, so that becomes 3. And max length stays 3 because that's not greater than 3. I plus plus, I is now 6. 6 is less than 10. We come in. If map contains key string at I, which is this O, which it does contain that key, then we go into our if statement, start equals map at string I, so start equals O, O's value of 5, so start is now 5. Map.clear, so we're clearing our map, and then map.add string at start. So map add string at start, which is 5, that's a W, and the 6. And then we've got our counter. Count's going to start at start plus 1, so count is going to be 6. And while count is less than or equal to I, so 6 is less than or equal to I, we go in map.add string at count, so string at 6, which is O, map.add O, and count plus 1, so O and 7. And then count plus plus 7. So we go in while 7 is less than or equal to 6. That does not hold true. So we get out of our while loop. Then we calculate sublength equals I plus 1. So 7 minus start minus 5 is 2. And max length is still 3 because it's not greater, 2 is not greater than 3. And then I plus plus, I'm going to just make some room here. So I is now 7. So 7 is less than 10. So we go in, and if map contains key string at I, which is an R, it does not. So we add the R, and that's an 8. And then sublength equals 3. And we are going to make a little room here. Sublength is now 3. That's not greater than our max length, so we don't do anything with that. And then I plus plus, I is now 6. And 6 is less than 10. So we go in and, oops, I went backwards. I is now 8. 8 is less than 10. So then we go in and string at 8 is L. L is not in our map, so we add it and it becomes L at 9. Then sublength now becomes 4 because 9 minus 5 is 4. And then now you have a new max length of 4. So I plus plus, I is now 9. 9 is less than 10. So we go in, and if map contains key string at I, which is this D, which it does not, we add the D, and that is 10. Sublength becomes 5. 5 is greater than 4, so we have a new max length. Then I plus plus is 10. 10 is not less than 10, so we get out of our for loop. We return max length, which is 5. So that does seem to work out. And the running time for this is O of n for walking through the entire string. And then worst case, with that little while loop in there, we could potentially loop around an additional amount. I think it's safe to just call it O of n, but it could be like O of 2n minus 1 or something like that. So it wouldn't be a full round, but it could be close to it. O of n is the time complexity, and we got an O of n space complexity because of that hash map that we had to use. So that should do it though.